Hello and welcome to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Mark Gillen of the 128th District in Berks County. Governor Corbett recently presented his budget plan to the legislature. It will serve as a starting point for the legislature as we consider spending priorities for the next year. Joining me today to discuss the budget is Representative William Adolph. Representative Adolph serves as the Majority Chairman on the House Appropriations Committee. Representative Adolph, thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure.
How long have you been at this on appropriations, and how long have you been the chairman?
3 years. This will be my fourth budget. I served as the minority chair my first year, and I've had the pleasure of serving as the majority chair the last two. And it's a real honor to serve as the chairman of the House Republican Appropriations Committee. It's really an honor, and I appreciate the confidence that my colleagues have in me.
We're pleased that you're there. You seem to have the pedigree for the position, if you will. Tell us a little bit about your background in accounting.
Well, I'm a partner in a small accounting firm. It's a mom and pop. It's really a mom and pop accounting firm. I'm the majority partner. I do tax returns on the weekends and at night, but the firm itself takes care of the small business folks, you know, the gas stations, the beauty salons, the small plumbing outfits and so forth, some small restaurants and bars, that type of stuff. And my partner does all that work. And we've been in Delaware County for over 40 years, and it's a good place to do business, but I'm always glad to get back there. It keeps you grounded, you know, and by preparing my friends and neighbors' tax returns, it really emphasizes what we do up here, how important it is, how it really does affect people's lives. And when we're making decisions on unemployment and increasing taxes or expanding certain benefits, how it affects the everyday family. And I find it very, very beneficial and rewarding in order to do that.
So it's fair to say it helps to keep you grounded, having that pedigree as a small business person and hearing directly from the constituent community.
No question about it, Mark. I mean, this is a wonderful place to work up here. However, sometimes you get overwhelmed with the special interest groups and so forth and so on, and their demands on you. And they mean well, and you know, and special interest groups are just that. They're special, okay, but to their own industry, okay? And we try to balance that all out, and how it trickles down to the small businessman, you know, your family doctor, your dentist, your neighborhood carpenter, that type of stuff. That's when you really have to put it to work.
Later this evening, I'll be visiting with some special interests of my own, my 4 daughters and my wife, so I can identify very closely with that.
Great.
How does this budget compare to past budgets? Where are we at in terms of our spending and our revenue, our projections? We're at the early stages of the process here.
Yes. As you know, Representative, the governor came out just last week and presented the budget to the Joint General Assembly. And I think the number was $28.4 billion, which I guess to some of us might have thought it was going to be a little less than that. Quite frankly, if I was going to pick a number, I thought it was going to be somewhere around $28 billion. So it's about $400 million more than I thought it was going to be. However, unlike Washington, Representative, you know, we have to balance our budget.
Absolutely.
And the governor put together a balanced budget, and he has some proposals outside the normal budget process that would have to pass legislation and become law in order for some of those funds to go inside the budget. However, even with the governor's $28.4 billion budget, it's still only 2.4% increase, which is less than Tabor, okay, which is an index where you can compare that with the cost of living and the consumer price index and all that good stuff. And I know we definitely want to keep our budgets obviously balanced, but in line with inflation. I think the previous administration, Mark, really spent too much as compared to what we were able to spend, and you know, we don't have a rainy day fund anymore, and a lot of the reserve funds were used, and not to mention the federal stimulus money. So
right.
you know, we were spending at a rate almost double the inflation. So we corrected that a couple years ago.
The message that I heard from back home is my constituent community was pleased that we were on time with our budget. We reined in the credit card spending, and we're beginning to pay back some of those debts. Is it fair to say in some respects the size of governance and the cost of governance has shrunk a bit since you've taken the helm at the Appropriations Committee?
Yeah. Well, listen, I get a lot of help. You know, I run the figures, but I'm only listening to my colleagues, and I was sent a message from people like yourself, from the southeast, the northeast, from the northwest, to central Pennsylvania, you know, to southwest Pennsylvania, that we needed to rein in our spending, and whether it would be our administrative expenses, we have done that. We have done that very well over the last couple of years. Sometimes, you know, certain line items had to be reined in. You know, we would not have been able to balance our budget without a huge tax increase. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we were just coming out of a recession. I'm not 100% sure if we're out of that recession yet. So it was certainly not the time to raise taxes on small businesses, big businesses, or the family. So we are able to decrease the administrative expenses around here. I know we've cut our budgets. The governor has cut his budget. The judiciary courts, we've slimmed their budgets down. So $28 billion, awful lot of money. We should be able to live within that.
I've had the privilege of getting down into your district to visit with you on several occasions. I don't recall seeing many farms down in your district. However, in our district in southern Berks County, there are still a number of farms, fruit operations, dairy operations, and therefore agricultural conservation easements and preservation of farmland is important to the people in my district, and I understand that this budget does accommodate preserving additional acreage.
Yeah, you know, the numbers that this proposal has will probably save about 1,000 acres in your district. You know, we'll get right to Berks County, and it does increase the appropriation for it, and obviously. The last couple of years, we've been able to preserve those funds. This year, there's actually an increase in there. Agriculture, even though there's not a farm of any type in my legislative district, my folks certainly like to eat. Okay, and we know how important the number one industry in Pennsylvania is. So I travel out to Chester County in order to get to Harrisburg on occasions, and you know, Chester County, in the western part of Chester County, you start to see the farmland, and it doesn't take long before you leave a metropolitan area and it becomes very rural and very agricultural dominated.
It's an engine that drives the Pennsylvania economy. It's the engine that drives the Berks County economy. And when you're around the Morgantown exit of the Turnpike, you've entered the district. Okay.
Yeah, I pass that. You know, a couple times a week, and you know, every once in a while, whether the Turnpike got jammed up or something, I've gotten off at that Morgantown exit, and sometimes just for a cup of coffee, or sometimes to detour the Turnpike as a result of some backups.
Well, if it closes completely in about 10 or 15 minutes from that exit.
Right,
right. I'm on the Veterans Affairs Committee, and
yes.
Certainly budget item is the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs. And there's a piece of the budget that deals with the American Battle Monument and monuments. Could you tell us a little bit about that And how important is it to Pennsylvanians to recognize that the Commonwealth and part of the tax dollars is going to memorialize those that have served?
Yeah, Mark, you know, we all have, my father's a veteran, World War II veteran, and you know, he is now starting, at age 88, starting to share some stories with me that he has never shared before. Memories that have been locked up in his brain for over 40-some years. No one speaks as eloquently as you do on the floor of the House when it comes to veterans. I was very impressed with your constituent that came up last week, and you praised him for his service. It was fantastic. But these monuments, we can never forget, and that's what it's all about. And there's some extra funding in this budget for it, and I'm sure it's going to stay. There's certain line items that that are not negotiable. Okay, and you pointed out to one of them.
Great. Your dad served in what arena and during what era?
United States Army.
Okay.
Okay. United States Army. Graduated from high school in 1943. Mm-hmm. Okay. At the age of 18. And by the fall, he was over in Germany, in Normandy. Okay. About 2 or 3 days after the invasion.
Tremendous.
Okay. And he went all the way to Germany. Okay, and was home in about, well, when the war ended, you know. So, you know, but there was something that, you know, he was in heavy artillery, okay, and he's just now opening up to me, and showing me some of his uniforms and some of his weapons and so forth and so on, which he has never done in a lifetime. So, you know, I think he wants to know, he wants to share it with his grandsons, I guess, is really how it started, you know, because the local elementary school was honoring Veterans Day, and wanted to hear from some local veterans, and that's how that story started.
It's thrilling for me to hear that, and I know that those that are viewing this will be excited that your dad was a veteran of World War II. My dad was in a machine gun turret of a torpedo plane in the South Pacific off the USS Hancock. And tonight, I will be at a Borough Council meeting, and I'll be presenting a citation to another one of our World War II veterans. And so, you know, they're quickly leaving us.
Oh, yeah.
And many of them are off the scene already. So now is the time to honor them, and it's appropriate that the state should legislate and move dollars in that direction.
Yeah.
Let's talk for a minute about public safety. We're enhancing the state police class, training more officers. Public safety is constantly in the news today, school safety. Can you tell us a little bit about that priority in the budget?
Yeah, the governor has appropriated money that we will be able to have 3 new cadet classes. A couple hundred cadets, okay, that will be able to patrol our highways. I know your area, I'm sure, uses the state troopers a lot more than my area. We have local police, and, you know, we don't see the state police until we're on the Blue Route or the Schuylkill Expressway, you know. But the state police here in Pennsylvania they do a fantastic job. And they've been able to work with us the last couple years as the funding was very tight. And I think the governor realizes it's now the time that we need some extra state troopers out there, and he has made the money available.
Well, let's take a quick break at this juncture, and we'll return to a legislative report in just a moment.
Good.
Thank you.
Good.
Did you know that Act 16 of 1999 honors one of the greatest leaders in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives? The Matthew J. Ryan Legislative Office Building, once known as the Capitol Annex, is located next to the main Capitol building and honors the late Speaker of the House, Matthew J. Ryan. Those who visit this building will observe the magnificent architectural designs providing eloquence and grandeur to the building. Known as one of the greatest members in the history of the Pennsylvania State House, Matthew Ryan started his career in the legislature in 1963 and was elected Speaker in 1981. His charisma and knowledge will forever be reflected in the building now named after this great legislative leader. Now you know.
Did you know that the state capitol is not only the epicenter of the Commonwealth's governing bodies, but was once home to 390 preserved Civil War flags? During the war, it was customary for each state to furnish their regiments in battle with flags representing their contribution to the Union Army. After the war, Pennsylvania's military department was responsible for collecting the flags, and in 1872 they were reverently housed in the Capitol. Following the completion of construction on the new Capitol building in 1914, the Civil War flags were moved to the Capitol Rotunda. They were kept untouched in custom-made flag cases until 1982, when the Capitol Preservation Committee initiated its Save the Flags project. Throughout the years, dust and long-term vertical display of the flags had begun to devastate the brittle silk fabric and painted designs. The flags were removed by local textile conservators and were repaired and preserved in storage units that protect the relics from light, dust, and excessive handling. Now you know.
Welcome back to the program. I'm State Representative Mark Gillen. Today my guest is House Appropriations Chairman, Representative William Adolph. Thank you for joining me again, Representative Adolph. Let's talk a little bit about some of the big ticket items in the budget. Education, where were we at last year? How are we moving forward this year?
Okay. Well, that's the biggest ticket item in the state budget. We mentioned that the budget's a little over $28 billion. Education, K through college, 41% of that budget.
Right.
Okay, big ticket item. Almost $11 billion, $10.8 billion. Okay, this year the governor is proposing a $90 million increase to basic education funding that all 500 school districts would share based upon what they call this aid ratio, Mark, which I know you know inside and out, but it's based upon the per capita of your school district, based upon the value of your home, and it's based upon the number of kids in the school. And it's all thrown into one, and a cost per child is calculated and sent from the state down there. Then there's all types of special education, transportation, Social Security expense, pension expense that gets put on top of that. With this $90 million, this will be the most state tax dollars in any single state budget ever in Pennsylvania. Okay, and I don't have to tell you, because you heard it as well, that all the tremendous cuts in education. Well, the people saying that forget to mention that they're talking about the federal stimulus money that we were left without as a result of 2 budgets ago. About $1 billion in education funding. We could not have filled that hole. And I think we're back on track. We're putting more state tax dollars into education than we ever did. The governor has come out as a starting point, level funding our 14 state universities, level funding our 4 state-related universities, and last but not least, level funding the state grant program. So I think from a starting point, education is way ahead of the game as compared to the last 2 budgets when, with your support, we were able to restore an awful lot of state funding for education.
Thank you. Closely on the heels of any discussion on education, educational dollars, would be the pension challenges we have moving forward. Do you anticipate a product coming out of the legislature in this session? Have to pull out the crystal ball a little bit. Are the votes there? You see the necessity for it, as all of us do. Do you think we can construct a bill to get to the governor's desk on pensions?
I hope so.
Okay.
I hope so. I think you have a real challenge when you're only talking about 4.5 months.
Right.
Okay. There's constitutional questions that we have to face. We have to make sure that the changes that we make, okay, are helping the unfunded liability, okay, and so there's an awful lot of work to it. And we made some changes in 2010, okay, and I understand we get about 4,000 new public school teachers on a yearly basis. That figure was estimated to me today, and of course the state employees as well. Those new employees since 2010 are under different guidelines than pre-2010. So we're going to have to do something. Okay, it's an important issue. There's nothing that the employees have done wrong.
Certainly.
Okay, nothing. Okay, we're trying to save the system. There was some legislation over the years that has helped the system, and there's been legislation over the years that has hurt the system. But nothing has hurt it more than the 2008 recession, when we lost almost 30% of our assets. So we're fighting our way back. Pennsylvanians are resilient, and I think we're going to be able to work together and come up with a way to save the system, because these people have been promised these types of pensions, and I don't think going backwards is the right thing to do. But going forward, we're going to have to do something.
In terms of the tax structure in Pennsylvania, we have a corporate net income tax here, which many regard as being onerous. The capital stock and franchise tax is now at the cusp of being eliminated. Could you share with us just a couple thoughts from your perspective as a business person, as an accountant, as to what that does for Pennsylvania's economy when you make that kind of progress?
Okay. First of all, let's start with the capital stock and franchise tax, which under the governor's proposal it phases out at the end of this fiscal year. This tax, Mark, for your viewers, this is a business tax that corporations, C corporations and S corporations pay. And despite whether you make any money, you owe a capital stock and franchise tax. And we have heard from many companies that were thinking about locating here in Pennsylvania. This was one of the taxes that they say, hey, listen, I can't take a chance of losing money the first couple years and still owing this capital stock and franchise tax. So I think once this capital stock and franchise tax is repealed, I think you're going to see good companies looking into Pennsylvania, and obviously they're the job creators. The corporate net income tax, what can I tell you? 9.999%. It's like selling furniture. We try to keep it under 10%. The highest in the nation. The highest in the nation. C corporations, not S corporations. C corporations pay the corporate net income tax. And all corporations, no matter what the industry is. Okay, so the governor mentioned a plan to try to reduce the corporate net income tax over a period of 5 years, I believe it is, Mark, down to 6.6%. Right. So we got a lot of work to do. We can't do it all in 1 year, especially under the constraints that we have. But we want to get Pennsylvanians back to work, and we see this as a real job creator.
We've got just a couple minutes left. Let me open up a new can of worms. Liquor privatization. It's going to be the subject of much debate here in the Capitol. What do you think the possibilities are of getting something out of the chute this time around? We've talked about it for decades, maybe generations in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Does this look like we're getting close to the cusp of a fix?
I think we are. I think we are. I think through the leadership of the governor, the leadership of Representative John Taylor, who chairs our House Liquor Committee, they're going to be working on a bill. It might not be everything that everybody wants, but I think it's going to be a start. Listen, 48 other states do not have a monopoly, and I think the private sector knows a little bit more about retailing and marketing of products than the state government does. And I think some of the proposals that the governor has come up with make an awful lot of sense. People want convenience. People want convenience. You travel up and down the East Coast, go out west. You know, you can go into a grocery store and you'll be able to pick up a six-pack of beer or a bottle of wine. You know, we always talk about Super Bowl Sunday, you know. Well, make sure you pick up your wine in Pennsylvania before Sunday because you can't get it anyplace else. I mean, the time has come for us to move in that direction. There's some folks that have invested some hard-earned money in purchasing their licenses and so forth, some of our beer distributors, but the governor's plan is giving them an option to sell other products as well. So they're going to have to take a long look at it, and I think you're going to see an improvement. What plan is the final bill? I don't know, but I think we're going to be able to do something with it.
Very briefly,
Sure.
While I was driving home last night, a constituent called me, and his concern was, and it was very heartfelt, and it later, 20 minutes after we began the conversation, broke down into tears for him because of his struggle over his property tax bills. You've been very gracious with me. We've had conversations. We've looked at some products to try to discern what's going to work here. Property tax rent rebate programs, we have some state property tax relief fund assets out there. This is really a subject for another program, but what's the health of our property tax relief fund look like now as a temporary fix?
I think it's good. I mean, the funding formula, the casinos are doing well. This legislature will not raid that fund, okay, where previous administrations have tried to raid that fund. We will not. Okay, we will not raid that fund. It was meant to take care of those folks that are really looking for property tax and rent rebate relief as well. But the property taxes issue is a tough issue. It's a very tough issue, but I think Pennsylvania does an excellent job as far as making these rebates available for those that need it the most.
Thank you very much for joining me, Representative Adolph. That's all the time we have for today's program. I'm State Representative Mark Gillen. If you need any assistance with a state government matter, feel free to contact me at my local office. The address and number will be shown in a moment. Thanks for watching, and please join me next time for Legislative Report.